Welcome to the History of the Batman with Londyn, brought to you by Meltdown Comics and Collectibles in Hollywood, California. This is where we relive the defining moments of one of the most iconic figures in comic art and literature, the Batman. My name is Adam Silverstein, and as always, I am joined by Londyn. From the shadows, we are joined by that mysterious voice that may or may not show up, Shadow Adam. History of the Batman with Londyn is produced and engineered by Mason Booker. We are here live at Meltdown Comics and Collectibles in Hollywood, California, home to Meltthology. Meltthology is a monthly comics jam at Meltdown every third Tuesday of the month. You show up, you draw, and then after it's all done, everyone collects their art. And the next month when you come back, there's a zine with everyone's contributions inside. There's no set theme. All skill levels are all, oh my Lord, they're all welcome. Everyone can come. I'm just so excited about Meltthology that you just got to come. Check it out. Also, we have Meltdown University. Meltdown University is where you can actually come to a comic book store and learn the skills to make comic books. We've got the creating comics, drawing comics for kids, and the art of inking. New classes are always being added, so check it out on meltcomics.com and enroll now. Also, like you to look for other Meltdown podcasts. We've got Disney Click, where everything in the Magic Kingdom is discussed. Meltcast 3.0. Meltdown employees talk new comics and get into other shenanigans. And then on video, The Digital Lizards of Doom. Meltdown's very own YouTube show where Gabe and Dan explore all aspects of pop culture. But here you are tuned into History of the Batman with Londyn. Londyn, you here?
Yep, I'm here.
All right. Well, we have a very, very good show today. We have a special guest, Shawn Alexander. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Well, that's good. That's already good. So, Londyn, how you doing? I mean, come on. Tell me. I mean, we just had Kelly Jones.
Yes.
And now we got Shawn Alexander. Do you go Jason Shawn? Does it have to be three? Jason Shawn Alexander? Can it just be Jason Alexander?
Jason
everywhere.
Is fine.
Okay.
Jason is fine. Okay.
All right. Because everywhere I see online, it's Jason Shawn Alexander. Is that a conscious thing or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything, as soon as I started doing comics, it was Jason Alexander, and then Seinfeld blew up. And no one could find me. It was all him. And then I went by J. Alexander, and then there was a restaurant chain. And so I was doomed. So I decided to go the pretentious route and go all three names.
Okay.
And so now at least when you Google it, you'll find me. But Jason is
But we could
fine.
still just call you Jason.
Yes, please.
Okay. And now the spelling of Shawn. I had a good friend that I grew up with, Shawn, right?
Yeah.
But you got these Seans out here.
Yeah.
My stepdad's named Shawn. He spells it Shawn.
That's true.
That was the first Shawn to me. I only knew that Shawn, and then all of a sudden I started seeing people as seen, and I was like, how does that even translate to Shawn?
I've never met another Shawn.
Really?
So, yeah, it's always scenes everywhere.
Scenes everywhere. Well, then I'm going to have to introduce you to my friend Sean Pinkston from Cincinnati. Anyway, I just had to go there.
That's fine.
So, Londyn, you got some questions today?
Of course I do. But I first just wanted, and I already told you this, but I just wanted to say, Jason, that I am a fan of your work. And I've seen different exhibits of your art that's non-comic book art, and I think that it's an kind of an expressionism. Would you say that's kind of your style? Or?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And your canvases are beautiful, and I think that when you do portraits, you've done like different body figure works, and they have a lot of emotion tied to them. Is that on purpose, or does it just kind of, to me, seem like you're trying to evoke some type of emotion from the character or whoever you're painting at the time?
I think my first jump into art was comics. And
Okay.
so when I was a late teenager, and the stuff that really moved me was Will Eisner. And I didn't realize comics could be done that way. And just seeing these overly expressive, emotional, weighted figures, it absolutely impacted me. And so it didn't seem, I didn't understand why you would draw without evoking some level of, pretty deep human emotion.
Right.
And so when I started doing fine art, it automatically just kind of started coming, it came out in there. Like it's more popular to take the emotion out in contemporary art. You don't want the viewer to think too much, feel too much. It might be too disturbing to have in your living room, but I've never understood any purpose of that. So
I agree.
Everything I want to be dramatic and emotional and have some kind of punch in the gut.
Did you want to do comic books before you kind of went into the fine art side, especially since you liked Will Eisner?
Oh, absolutely. Me and a few friends self-published an anthology when I was 19 called Section 8. And that's actually where my book was originally conceived that I'm doing now, Empty Zone.
Oh, cool.
And then I went on to do Empty Zone through Sirius Entertainment for a couple of years. And then it was only later when I got into fine art when I moved to North Carolina and met up with guys like George Pratt and Kent Williams.
Oh, very nice. Well, do you have any other inspirations that aren't comic book related that go into your art, either artist or something you've seen in the past?
Oh, most of my influences are not.
So what are your so what influences do you have? Or the major ones? I'm sure you have many.
Yeah, that list can just.
But maybe top 2 or 3.
Kathy Kollwitz and Francis Bacon.
Oh,
those
nice.
are 2 of my absolute favorites.
I can see that. Huh.
Yeah, heavy-weighted emotional figures and expressive abstraction.
Right, and I think having that in comic books and in the heroes or the villains, that's really important because it's not just narrative. The comics are driven visually, and if a character is feeling one way, making sure that you can put that into the picture, how they feel, is really important. So the work that you've done in comics, I've actually really appreciated it, and I like linking it to your other works. Right now, do you have any of your fine art kind of on display anywhere, exhibit, anything like that, or do you just kind of have it in your studio and you can't really see it? If anyone's interested.
Yeah, if anybody's in the specifically, I guess the LA area, the gallery I'm represented by in LA is 101 Exhibit.
Oh.
And they're on Melrose.
Yeah. I know. Okay. Oh, okay. That's awesome. I'm going to have to go see that.
How long has it been up there?
Yeah.
I've been represented by them since 2009. And so I don't have a show currently on exhibit, but they have a second space right near their gallery on Melrose that you can go and see any of my stuff anytime.
And so real quick on the internet, so if we got listeners want to just type in on their computer right now, where should they be looking to help?
101exhibit.com.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. So you started off, though, we were talking a little bit off air, or maybe on air. I don't even remember now. My whole life is either on air or off air, and it just kind of blends together. But you grew up in Tennessee.
I did.
Portland, Tennessee. What is Portland, Tennessee like? I mean, I've never even heard of it until...
I think it's vastly different now, but way back in the day when I was there, it was, I think, around 5,000 people.
Okay.
Very small little town, about right on the border of Kentucky. And it just, it's where I'm from. It's my roots and my heritage, but I couldn't wait to get out of there.
Right.
It just never... nothing to slight the town. It just didn't seem. It never felt like my home. Never felt. It was never really open to the arts.
Right. Well, how did you get open to the arts?
Yeah.
I mean, you grow up in such a small town. I mean, how was this get to you? How are you infected?
My father.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know I don't know what kind of kid I would have been had it not been, my mother's from Tennessee, but my father's from California. And he was going to school, and he was kind of the amateur artist, and just blew my mind, always drawing and doing what he was doing. And so I would always, I would do drawings, and I would show up the next day, and he would have critiqued and written notes on the drawings of anatomical things. And
how old is he writing notes on your drawings? Like, because I mean,
12.
Okay. Because it's 6 years old. I mean, my 6-year-old draws. I just let him draw. I'm like, I'm glad you're actually completing a picture. If I started writing, although my 8-year-old, I give him little notes, because he comes up to me like, "Isn't this great?" I was like, "Well, you didn't exactly do what anyway."
Yeah, there's nothing more beautiful than the line, that a child makes. I mean, that's just gorgeous. And so, but yeah, once I got older and I was getting frustrated, then he would start putting notes. And
okay,
I kind of.
So, what kind of art was he doing?
Just like portraiture and pencil. He was always just drawing. Kind of some fantasy drawings, some portraiture stuff, and. Yeah, I think on one side I was interested in art, and on the other I think it was just a way that I could connect with him, because he felt like an outsider. Like, you've got this guy from Riverside, California, just kind of stuck in Portland, Tennessee, and he just really stood out. And I think I think I saw that on some level, and I just wanted to bond with him, and then it took over, and I just became obsessed with image making.
Nice. What was he doing in Portland? I mean, besides, he married your mother, I assume, right? Yeah. And then he's in Portland. What's he doing for a 9 to 5?
Oh, factory. Yeah, okay. We grew up. I mean, I grew up in the trailer in the middle of nowhere, and my mom worked a part-time job, and her parents were right beside us, and so that was kind of the reason to live there, because they could help take care of us. And he worked, 12, 14 hours a day at the factory. So ever since I could remember, when I got old enough, I worked at the factories and the automotive factories and the warehouses and all that till I could afford to get the hell out of there.
Right. So what was the art scene there, other than your dad? Was there one?
No. What?
Really? There was nothing. So you couldn't even talk with your friends about it? Like,
I had friends that became interested in comics. Nobody that was ever genuinely serious about art. Even the art teacher in my high school was kind of a failed English teacher, I believe. I couldn't remember. Wow. It was just, I remember she would just consistently fail me because I hated, it was just,
You failed in art?
I think a teacher like that could see like some kind of rebellion and embrace it and see where it could go. Yeah. Or you could just kind of try to swat it down as he's a rebellious little ish.
Right.
Wow.
By the way, I would think that the art teacher would at least embrace the rebellion. Right? Yeah. I mean, that is a failed English teacher.
Yeah, she was not a fan of me.
So that's interesting. What would she say that you were doing technically wrong?
She didn't like if I just started drawing drawings in ink. That wasn't proper. I had to pencil first.
Wow.
We just never, she wanted us to paint some things. I would paint other things, and instead of questioning it, she would just be like, fail. And so and that just does nothing to you at that age but say, well, how about this? You just keep, like, no.
Wow.
So did you get your first tattoo in Tennessee?
I did. I got my first 2 tattoos in Tennessee, and thank God they're on my back, because they're the only ones I designed, and I don't ever want to look at them.
Oh, wow.
I was just going to ask, which ones did you design any of your tattoos?
Yeah, those are bad, and I'm glad they're back there. Then everything else, I went the safe route and went Michelangelo and Rodin and all that. So
nice.
I figured, I told my wife, I was like, yeah, I quite literally wear my influences on my sleeve.
There you go. And what was the comic scene like? The comic book scene, not the comedian scene, back in Tennessee? I mean, was there a local comic shop? Did you go to Target or buy where were you getting your comics?
Yeah, we started off at like pharmacies and whatever little comic rack we can find, and then there was a couple of little small shops that opened. Maybe they would live for about a year or two, and this was at the time when, it's so weird, I can't think of the year, but it was the time when like McFarlane launched the Spider-Man that he started doing.
Oh yeah,
and so. And that's when I started really getting interested in comics, was those Marvel guys that then later
went to Image.
To Image, and it just, I mean, just graphically, it just exploded. You know,
yeah.
Just, you're a little kid, you just, that leapt off the page. And it would be years before I would discover the guys that really move me now, like Sienkiewicz and Kent and those guys. But no, we had to drive to maybe like 40 minutes to Nashville and go to the shops there.
When did you get into Will Eisner then? Because you mentioned him earlier. Was that from these early days, or was it after you realized that you could do what Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, and those guys were doing?
I would and not really read the comics because they didn't seem very expressive, but they seemed very graphically intense, and so I would just ape Todd McFarlane like crazy. And then it was. I think a friend lent me The Crow, and then the first issue of that had some small little homage to Eisner, which led me to Eisner, and then that just, between The Crow and Contract with God, it just changed everything. So you can see, please don't ever see, but the self-published stuff we did, which I believe you can still find, is like me completely aping McFarlane trying to do Eisner.
Wow.
So it's kind of horrible. It's kind of the worst thing that you can see.
I'm sure it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, come
it
on.
Can't be that
bad.
Okay. Well, it's like your back tattoos, right?
Yeah. Keep them back there. I don't need to.
Yeah. So then what next? So you're in Tennessee, you're obviously failing art. I mean, that's
yeah.
What's your dad saying at that? Is he saying
he knows what's going on? Okay. He's cracking up.
He likes that. That's the California in him saying these Tennessee.
Yeah, that
fools.
makes me feel better.
Okay.
If he likes it, I was good.
Okay. And so then, I mean, you had at least his support. So you continued to pursue. You were continually reading comics, I assume.
Yeah.
Or at least absorbing the visuals.
Yeah.
And you also continued your art. So where did you continue the art? Where was the next step?
I kept submitting to different companies, and it was my mom that chimed in and said I should just try to do it myself. And then we started self-publishing, and which was great because your first experience doing comics, the idea that you're going to figure out distributors, printers, and all that kind of stuff. It helps you really learn the industry, on the inside. So then we self-published, I think, for a few years, and then Sirius Entertainment called me, and then I started drawing comics.
So were you also doing fine art, though?
No.
Okay. So that kind of got put to the side?
I was all comics. I was 100% draw out of your head. Anything else is cheating. I just wanted, comics. And then I moved to North Carolina at the suggestion of George Pratt that I had met online. And then I'd met him and Kent, and then it just opened up this whole world of how to change how I was working in comics. And that changed that I wanted to do something other than comics. I'm stuck with comics. I'm obsessed. Like it would be so much simpler in my career to have just continued and pursue fine art. But I'm obsessed with storytelling. So I'm always going to be doing comics on some level. So even though I was discovering this world of painting and fine art, I was never going to stop drawing comics.
Now, I'm interested, just going back a little bit. I have listeners and followers that want to break out into the comic book industry themselves. And while you were sending your work to companies and then you decided to self-publish, which route would you think you would advise to people who are trying to get their work out there?
Self-publish.
Self-publish?
what I learned is that they pretty much have people that take submissions and put the rejection stamp on it and send it right back. And
is that in itself just daunting, kind of sending out to, do you send out to everyone? Do you pick which ones you want? How is that process just before the self-publishing, just sending your work out, just trying to see, who would...
I was so crazily optimistic that I would be excited when I got not just a rejection letter, but I remember that Eric Larson would sign his rejection letters. And I looked at that and my mom was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, oh, man, I got Eric Larson's autograph. And so I just knew I was always going to do it. There was never going to be, I never had a plan B. I never, that's why I worked in factories and horrible jobs, because I never wanted to
commit.
Yeah, I never wanted to get comfortable.
Right.
The more I hated it, the more I was going to try to get out of it. And so I busted my side. And then, so what I tell kids or guys aspiring is to go to conventions, and not just go to conventions, go to the bar after the convention, because guys are way more likely to hire a drinking buddy than they're going to hire some, shirt tugging kid, like, look at my stuff. Huh. I told this to a group at Savannah College of Art. And that night, drinking with some professionals, I wound up getting like a gig doing a Wolverine cover. And I was like, and I went back the next day and I told the kids, I'm like, buy them a drink.
There you go.
Nice. Huh.
What'd you buy them? What'd you guys drink that night? Do you remember?
Whiskey.
Okay. Tennessee. So you're doing the comics. You said Serious Entertainment gives you the shot. Now, how much time are you spending drawing at this moment or that time in your life? I mean, are you doing it all the time? I mean,
when I first started doing stuff for Serious, I had a day job or a night job at Kinko's, which is kind of perfect if you draw comics.
Free copying.
Not that you should ever steal or make sketchbooks, business cards, or zines.
Yeah.
But
But if you can.
Yeah. And so anytime I wasn't there, I was making comics.
Were you able to have a social life?
I had an okay social life. I was pretty much a straight edge till I was about 23. So I wasn't drinking or doing anything anyway. So I was dedicated. I knew at some point it would pay off. But it was just work all day, all night. We put up, when I finally left Kinko's and was just doing comics, I still was used to that work schedule. So for about 10 years, I worked from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And which unfortunately now...
Wait, say that again? What was that work schedule?
8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Oh, man.
Graveyard.
That's how you did it?
When the sun came up, I was like, oh, that was a good day. And then I'd go to sleep.
Wow.
I wonder if that influenced any of your work, just that late night. I wish I could go back to it. Like, what it's done is given me pretty much solid insomnia for the rest of my life. Like, anytime I need to do an all-nighter, people are like, oh, you've got an all-nighter. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. Bring me back.
It's the only time I feel human.
Right. Memories. Listen, I loved my childhood. I think back to that. You think back to the late nights when you could stay up all night. Why can't you do it now?
Wife, kid.
Oh, yeah. Those kids, man, they ruin the schedule, don't they?
Yeah. And it would probably be great if I did stay up all night. So then if she woke up, I could still handle things. But she would be doing cute things during the day. So
yeah, you can't miss that, man. It's a good dad right there.
It just doesn't allow for any level of interaction with other humans, really.
Right.
So
yeah, well, drawing. I mean, that's another thing, right? Just being at the desk drawing is hard because you're not interacting unless you're in a studio or something. Do you find that you work better alone? Do you want to work with people in a like a bullpen?
I don't want anybody anywhere near me. The even at my home, I mean, the studio is I converted the garage. So it needs to be out of the house, out of everything. I need
that's
solitude.
Just part of your creative process. You kind of need to just
that and ADD probably doesn't help. So everything distracts me. Everything, like even when I hear things, and I'm trying to keep focused on the sentence. But
right. Well, this is Meltdown Comics, so there is a lot of stuff going around. Yeah. So they're going to distract you. You got to stay focused here.
But it's every little thing will distract me on some level. So I have like very specific mixes of music when I do listen to music, which is never first thing in the morning is up at 6 a.m. at the table by 7, and then I've got about 4 or 5 hours of just pure silence where I'm penciling predominantly. I mean, when I'm inking, and then as the day progresses, I can put on some music and start penciling. But the thing that needs the most focus and the most attention, dead silence. So everything I ink is just quiet, and the first thing I do.
Have any of your distractions ever inspired you randomly, or is it just no? It just doesn't work. You need that silence.
I don't know. I keep it pretty solid routine. But that first hour in the morning, I wake up at 6 and I make sure I go to the coffee shop and just sit out and sketch people and all that. So there's already a kind of influence of the day and something else that will inspire or whatever. Because no matter what I've done in that sketchbook that morning, something similar will appear in the work in the comics.
Oh, okay.
So it is good to have that kind of human interaction and something to start your day, and then
just cut it off.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the comics that you started in the beginning with. So give us a little bit of progression on after you were with Sirius, and then what next? I mean, we're trying to build up to Batman here is what I'm trying to do here.
But we don't want to ignore all the other works that you've done, of course. So,
right after doing Empty Zone for Sirius was Queen and Country.
Nice title.
Yeah, I thought they had made a mistake. When it was my good friend and past roommate Mike Norton, who does Revival. I think he was set up to do a story arc, but somebody before him had bailed. And so he gave him my name. And when they contacted me, I looked up Queen and Country, and it was very cartoony. I was like, I don't think you guys got the right guy.
Right.
They're like, no, we want to try this. And then I read Greg Ruth's script. I was like, this is gorgeous. And so I just put everything I had into it. And that was like, those were my only 2 Eisner nominations were for that Queen and Country.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. All on what you thought might have been a mistake, huh?
Yeah.
That's great.
It was fantastic. And that was the thing that got attention for Dark Horse, who I went on to do a not awesome Van Helsing one-shot, but it was through that Van Helsing one-shot that caught Mike Mignola's attention, and then I got Abe Sapien, and then I went on just to do basically work for Dark Horse for another 8 years. You
did a Conan cover, didn't you?
I did an arc of Conan covers.
Man, Conan, that was like, that's an honor to work on, right? I mean,
it is, but talk about pulling yourself out of your comfort zone. I didn't do barbarians and fantasy. That was the one thing. I love cyberpunk and I love noir and that, but fantasies and wizards and barbarians was just never up my alley. And so they asked me, and I was like, and
again, is this a mistake?
Right. When you're approached with things like that, when you are given projects and it doesn't feel like it's within what you do, how do you tackle that and put your own spin on it but still kind of keep true to whatever the comic is?
I reiterate with the editor what I do. And so and I was like, I don't do this right. Like, it's going to have a different thing. And if they say, okay, it comes down to whether it's just out of my wheelhouse and I'm not interested, or whether it's out of my wheelhouse and it's a challenge. And it's Conan. So I was like, I really want to lend my name to one of the artists that have done Conan.
Understandable.
So, yeah, but I think if they had asked me to do interiors, that would have been I think I would have probably passed. But just to do those painted covers was really fun.
Yeah. Cool. So after Conan and after Dark Horse, where are we now? Where are you building up to?
After Dark Horse was Dead Irons for Dynamite Entertainment.
Yeah.
Jay Lee created or visually created the characters, and it was just it was a horror western, and I'd never seen something like that. Vampires and werewolves in the Old West. Yeah.
You would do it.
Oh, it was a blast.
That's
That was incredible. And so I'm trying to think after that. Like,
well, real quick, where did you get... So comics are obviously a big influence in your life, other comics. We talked a little bit about fine art. Are you pulling stuff to get your ideas from? Movies? Are you getting music? I mean, how are you shaping all your influences? Where are they coming from?
everywhere, all media. I mean, most of my influence are still probably fine art, but I always tell aspiring or up and coming comic book guys to watch horror films, because every scene is specifically geared to evoke an emotional response. As cheesy as the movie is, I would tell them to go watch Phantasm 2, because they would crop the camera behind boxes, so you're looking through boxes to get an even more claustrophobic feel. The pacing, everything. Horror movies are just the best study for drawing comics, and then then you get stylistically guys you like Del Toro or movies like Dark City and stuff like that are just they just move me. But and then I listen to a ton of movie soundtracks.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that's what they do. They evoke
emotion.
There's so much suspense.
They're amazing. And if I listen to anything too fast, I'm going to want to bop along to it. But but when you're listening to like Ex Machina or something like that, then you just have this kind of mood.
And it builds and it just, it takes you through a whole story itself.
Yeah, it's great. And then someone said, like, so much of my stuff is soundtracks as well. And then I think someone said, you got to play the Mad Max one. So I played Mad Max, and then I was just throwing ink and I had to stop. I was like, I know. It was amazing, but I was like, no, this is like driving music in LA. Like, this is
So is Mad Max, is that a fine art piece, or is that a comic book piece that you're going to be listening to? Or that you're going to create when you listen to Mad Max?
Oh, that's painting, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, painting is bigger. You can go crazy with it. Inking, as expressive as you get with inking, it's still, you're still conveying very literal things. You have to be focused. You have to get pretty specific, pretty tight. Even though the pages I work on are much larger, I guess, than standard comic book size.
Are you drawing anything digitally?
No.
That's interesting. I see that, but yeah, that's...
Figured I'd ask. I mean, because it's like the thing, right? I mean, people draw digitally now.
It is. I don't understand it, but I mean,
you're keeping it real still.
I like tactile, man. The paper I work on is 18 by 24. It's watercolor paper because I need that tooth, because I want to fight the pen. I want to feel it. And I got friends that can completely ape traditional work. I mean, it looks so pen and ink, but in the end, I'm like, but you can't hold it. You can't make mistakes. Right? You have Command Z, and there's so much of my pages that are covered in white gouache and ink and fingerprints, because it's almost fun when you do fail at a panel on an almost finished page, because then it's time to experiment and save your tires, and you're going to learn something when you're trying to save tires.
Nice.
You can't just hit undo. It takes away history in the work, and it takes away evolution in your learning.
It's just a better experience.
Absolutely.
In the end.
And I'm not. This is not just to
right. You're not trashing digital or anything.
Like, the tool that is the most comfortable for you is the best tool for you.
Did you try digital? The digital drawing?
No, the most I've tried is trying to draw something on an iPad.
Oh.
And you're like,
how did that turn out?
It was fun on the airplane. People would look at it, but I'm just like, no.
Well, I think with your work, I think it clearly comes out that each panel, I mean, you put that kind of effort and that kind of, emotion into each panel that you end up doing. It's pretty fantastic stuff. I mean, we'll talk about Empty Zone, the new stuff that just came out. I mean, it's like an art piece every page.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
So, I mean, I'm sure you get that, right? You got to be getting that response from people.
Yeah, people seem to be really taken aback by it. I'm a little taken aback. It's my favorite work, and I didn't realize, and that feels naive, but I didn't realize what would change when it is your baby. You know, because I'm putting everything I have in every project I do. I didn't realize that I had some stored up stuff that was just waiting if it was mine. Because I don't have to live up to a pre-existing character. I don't need an editor to tell me this is off, because nothing's off. It's mine. Whatever I put down is right. And it makes you want everything that you put down to be amazing. So yeah, I didn't realize I had what I had. I'm really proud of the Empty Zone stuff.
You should be. It's amazing stuff. Which I guess brings me then, and I'm just time jumping here, time warping.
No, that's actually interesting because you feel that Empty Zone is your baby, whereas when you work on characters like Batman or Arrow or Superman, there's already they're set.
Yeah.
They're already known. And so and I've read your comics for Batman, and the way that the characters are portrayed is there's so much emotion, and I kind of understand why you don't do digital. And it all seems so personal, each panel. And I see that you kind of make the characters your own, whether it's Batman or it's Catwoman or whoever it is. And is it difficult to try to do these so well-known characters in your style that it may not be what everyone's used to? Do you kind of get that? Do you kind of feel that way when you're told to do whatever panel or pages? Is that kind of hard to deal with, or you're just like, no, it's just my own thing and I'm going to put my own spin?
I'm lucky enough that after doing this for as long as I have, an editor's not going to contact me unless they want my spin. And that part's really nice. But when I look at a character like that, there's the first thing is a little intimidating, and then the next one is purely a challenge. Is in like, how do I kick everybody's ass who ever drew this character? I need to be the one that people associate. Like, I think there's very few characters that I don't think could really be touched anymore after an artist has done them.
Well, who?
Yeah, well, go to an example.
My first example would have to be, I think McKeon pretty much nailed Joker with Arkham.
Yeah. I love that joke. That whole comic is brilliant.
It is absolutely. And even though I enjoyed his Batman and his other characters, it felt like he did that book to do that character, and he owned it. He really owned it. And there's just very few characters I think are like that. But
so, if for example with Joker, we can talk about, you did Arkham City Endgame.
Yes.
And I loved Joker in that comic, and the fact. And well, first of all, did you play the video game?
I did after I got the job.
Okay.
My PlayStation has been my Blu-ray player for a long time.
Okay.
And once they said it was directly with the video game, then I had to get the video game, and then you realize you should be working. So.
Really ruined that routine, huh?
Oh. Yeah, convincing my wife, like, this is for work, I swear.
Yeah.
I swear.
Well, so real quick for the listeners who don't know. So there's the video game, right?
There's Arkham City.
And then you were set to do or tasked to do the comic book that follows up the video game. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
And initially, I didn't know the video games up to that point.
Right.
Okay.
Who approached you? I mean, how does that whole thing?
Right. How did?
I'm trying to think who actually. I mean, it was one of the editors, but like the DC Digital is kind of a whole different beast of DC, At least it was. I think it's definitely become more melded in now, but it was a very different beast. And so when they contacted me, they're like, it has nothing really to do with the comic book. It has everything to do with the video game. You have to stick with these designs.
But did they tell you why you? Did they say, we saw this, we saw that?
Yeah, were they inspired by any of your previous?
I want to say they referenced something, but I have no idea.
You're like, Batman?
All I heard was Batman. And
well, even before you worked on Gotham Central for a couple of issues.
Yeah.
And so do you think that maybe just your work on that, they wanted to bring you back for more Batman-related stories?
No, I think they may very well have never called me again if they just had that to reference. That was the one story.
You did not like doing that story?
I enjoyed it. It was the worst timing ever. It was literally a tight deadline at the moment where I was driving across country to move to LA.
Oh, wow.
And I was so tight, and I was busting my ass on it. And there was a few pages I really liked, but it's one of the few projects that if I ever Google it, it's like fans were not a fan of me. They were just,
really?
Yeah, they do not like my work on that book. And I'm not hugely, I've never been a fan of the guys that just crank it out, just to get the paycheck to make the job. But that one, I was very stressed and very behind, and I was like, oh, if only I had this to do over again.
Oh.
Sounds like you didn't even really like that experience.
No, I enjoyed Catwoman in your stories, if I'm being honest, but I'm sorry that there was somewhat of a negative response and you didn't enjoy it that much.
No, and she was great. Michael Lark was the perfect artist on that book. Like he's the Law and Order comic book artist. And I didn't realize it was that. And I'm like, when I got the call, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get to draw this. And then I saw what it was. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to get to draw any of this. I'm going to draw 2 cops.
So was that your first DC work?
Yes.
And you hadn't worked, or you haven't worked for Marvel, have you?
I did 1 issue of Marvel Zombies Return.
Was that before or after the DC stuff?
After.
Okay. So, your first call then to do DC, what's that like?
It was absolutely incredible, and I was thrilled. And then I could understand why I didn't get any more calls for a while. And so, and it was just bad timing. I would never hack anything out. And then some of the editors saw the Abe Sapien stuff, and then that's what called their attention to me for Batman.
Oh, okay.
So talk about the Arkham, the end game. I mean, what is? I don't know the whole. So you maybe should explain to me, Londyn.
In a nutshell, isn't it just? It's right after the end of the game where Joker is dead, and then it's kind of the aftermath in a way of how Batman deals with just Gotham and people that are kind of rebelling over Joker. And what I really liked about this, it's a short series, 6 issues?
No, 60 pages.
60 pages, okay.
I think they've continued it.
Yeah.
Joker Endgame, yeah.
Yeah, but you did the first.
Yeah, which is kind of neat, seeing that first issue and seeing the guy kind of redraw some of my panels, which is kind of fun.
And the way that your artwork, it's very, like I said, it's very heavy, dark lines, and it's kind of, it has a lot of mood and emotion, and dealing with Batman kind of in a way coping with Joker's death. And then, like you said, you think McKean did Joker, that's just the Joker. So you had to approach this character in a way. And how was that in terms of the creative process? Because Joker himself is just chaos and bright and crazy. Yeah. And so you could put a lot of how you do your figures. You can put all of that emotion and the way that Batman looks under the cowl and his face and the expressions and everything came out, I think, really well in those panels. So how was that process, that creative process, and how you could kind of talk about Batman and Joker's relationship that they have, that kind of yin and yang and that good versus evil? Could you kind of bring your style to talk about that within this series?
Oh, I've been dying to do a story like this, but my Batman experience was like Batman boot camp, because I'm not the fastest artist, and the editor was explaining to me, he's like, look, I understand, but we're already behind, so if you can't do this, I get it. You have basically 60 days to do 60 pages. And I'm like, God, I was like, no, I don't do that at all. And then he's like, I get it. He goes, but the story, you know, he's like, I don't know, it's about the death of the Joker. And I'm like, wait, what? So at that point, I'm like, all right, we're gonna have to man up, because this isn't doing two cops talking about Batman. This is Batman and the Joker and the death of the Joker. And so it would have been even more fun, or I would love to have seen what I could have done if I hadn't been told that I needed to stick with the video game.
If you can go outside of it.
Yeah, I think my Joker and Batman, I think, would have been very different beasts. I would have loved to have been able to just go full on how I would have loved to have done them without restraints. But as it stands, I tried to do as much. I tried to push as far as I could in those restraints of sticking with the video game. And because I'm with you, I love that the dynamic between those two characters. The Killing Joke is one of my absolute favorite stories. Oh my God! But it was fun, because when you're really pushed to not overthink something, you also kind of get to see what you're made of. And and I still had to spend the first week of those 60 days prepping and shooting the model. I shoot models for everything I do.
Okay.
I think, and when people comment on my expressions and that kind of a thing with my figures, it's a huge compliment, because we all have an inner vocabulary that we have. And, artists that don't use model reference, even occasionally, their sad face is their sad face. Like, whoever has that sad face, those eyebrows are going to look the same on every character. You tend to repeat yourself because you know how to do that thing. There's something with using models that the shadows are different. The expressions are specific to that person. So, nobody's going to smirk the same way that that guy's going to smirk. And it keeps it exciting for me. Everything is new, everything, and it allows for the work to be more personal, because these are, a lot of times paid actors, but a lot of times friends. And it's, I love putting that human touch onto these characters, because Batman can be this soulless shadow of a figure. But I love the idea of putting a man inside there. Right.
And that's, I think, a reason why a lot of fans like Batman, because he is human, and that's not the case for most of his allies that he's with the Justice League. And so that's why it's always nice, I think, to see when an artist puts so much character and humanity within Batman, because he's probably the best representation of a human within the DC multiverse, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And it was fun to try to push the Joker to keep that level of realism, but push that to however far people will believe it, Yeah, that was a blast.
What Batman characters would you like to draw that you haven't before? If there is someone in particular that you're like, oh, he looks really cool, and I think I would crush it. Yeah, you could make it your McKean Joker.
even though I got to do a one shot, I would kill to do Two-Face again.
Nice. That cover you did for Legends of the Dark Knight. Yeah. That's a brilliant cover.
Thank you.
It's really nice. Definitely.
That was the most time I had to do on any of that stuff. They were open with the deadline, but it was almost a Gotham Central situation. It was a tight deadline, and I had to bust it out. And I'm happy with it. But oh my God, if I had another shot at Two-Face,
you would do a. That would be so cool.
I would McKean that Two-Face. I would make him mine.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do deadlines kind of kill the excitement for you sometimes? Because it sounds like you've had some stories where deadlines just, I could have done so much more. And does that kind of ruin the experience for you a little? Or you're just like, no, this...
Or is it necessary?
Yeah, or is it just, this is just what it has to be?
It has to be. Yeah, I've had the best experience when an editor comes to me and asks me how much time it would take to finish a book. Because then I can be a little more... it can be a little bit more flexible, but that's where I've had a few contemporaries that like to make fun of me because they're like, oh, you know, that's what you get for being an artist. And because that's it, I'm a horrible professional illustrator. I'm horrible. The way I work is I pencil a page, I'll ink a previous page and then I'll pencil another page. And that's how I work because I need a full day for that to digest, for it to come back the next day before I start finishing everything. I need to let it disappear for a minute and then come back with fresh eyes and come at it. The idea of penciling and inking a single page a day is unfathomable to me. Like so much of the work in my paintings come from downtime. When I work fast. I crank, it's expressive. I need to be in the moment, but there is a lot of time in between where I need to kind of see it and feel it and get comfortable. And then as soon as I do, then I just bolt and I go crazy on the work. So I'm a horrible professional illustrator.
Is that where at some point you realize, you know what, I just need to do some fine art too? Because obviously you are doing that and that's done very well for you. I mean, you're showing in galleries and it's beautiful work and it's not on a deadline, I assume. No,
it's beautiful. I still have a very disciplined work ethic. Even when I'm painting, I'm still up at 6 and at the canvas at 7. But it's the fine art thing came from an absolute influence of seeing when I moved to North Carolina for a little while and seeing Kent's work and George and Scott Hampton and those guys. And it was no time at all, given his current situation and mine at the time, where our personal lives were in a little bit of upheaval. Kent and I wound up sharing a studio for a couple of years, and he became basically my mentor. So I'm working on comic stuff, seeing him work on comic stuff and paint. And then I started painting and kind of, there's a good part of my career where my work looks a lot like Kent. And it was, that was just a pure like mentee kind of state. But it opened my eyes to not just doing these literal storytelling kind of images, doing something that is a little bigger than yourself and that can be more obscure. You're not portraying a person being sad looking down, you're portraying a feeling, an emotion, and you don't have to be so literal with it. And there's something very freeing and something beautiful about that. And it's very strange that I can paint for a show, and by the end of the time I'm finished, I'm dying to do a comic again. And by the time I'm finished with a story, I'm dying to paint again. So I love having the dichotomy of having these two very different things in my life.
Wow. Well, it's good for your fans that you like that, because, I can tell you right now, at least with regards to the comics, I don't know what you're hearing the response has been, especially like Empty Zone, but we can't even keep them here at Meltdown. It's sold out. Every issue's gone.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Is that what you're hearing? Is that what you're getting back, that people are really giving you a good response?
They are, but it's a different kind of good response. And I love the kind of good response because it's me telling the story as well, writing it. And I don't have that fast-paced comic book mentality. I like a slow burn. I like a build. I'm writing, a 5-issue arc. I'm not necessarily just writing episodically each thing. So, people get a little frustrated that I'm not answering everything in each issue and stuff like that. But by the end of the 5th issue, you get the whole story and all that. But the responses have been great in that they're also, there's been reviews where like we don't know what this is. We haven't seen a book like this in a very long time, and people kind of liken it to the old Vertigo books, which is amazing because
that's quite a compliment.
Yeah. Anytime I'm going to get reference to Hellblazer, the original, I'm a happy guy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the response has been fantastic, and it's a little humbling.
I think another really special thing about Empty Zone is, I don't know who knows if, but I know some people know, but you did a Kickstarter campaign to get that thing going. Is that fair?
Yeah.
I mean, what was that like? What was doing a book through Kickstarter like?
It's horrible.
Is it?
Really?
I don't ever want to do that ever again. Yeah, it's yeah. You even though people tell you that, you're like, it doesn't make sense. If you have good time management, you're talking 2 hours a day. That's all you need to know. 2 hours a day becomes 6 hours a day, and it becomes a full-time job for the entire time it's up. And, you're calling in every professional favor you have, can you please help promote? And just, it was my first time doing a creator-owned book in decades. And I'd gotten the idea of how you get paid doing a book through Image and things on the back end and all that. So, I have a wife and kid. I was like, I need to pay rent. And so I was like, all right, let's do a Kickstarter. And so we did that, and yeah, it ended, thank God,
Yeah. And it funded, right?
It did.
I mean, you had a $5,000 pledge,
yeah,
which is pretty crazy. I mean, I didn't know, I'm a big fan of Kickstarter, and I will definitely support projects that I see. And to see a $5,000 pledge, that's pretty nice.
That was great. And I was hoping, going in that, there's the pledges for comic book fans and comic collectors and comic art collectors. But then I was kind of hoping to pull in some collectors that wanted a deal on some of the fine art. So there was a few pieces I offered that, even though they were still comic related, were approached very painterly. And so a couple of those collectors kind of took it as a deal because the gallery work is a little more pricey than the comic book stuff.
Yeah. Cool.
That is cool. For those who don't know, can you give us maybe a sentence or two about Empty Zone and kind of just how you've been doing that arc so far? Self-promotion.
Self-promotion.
We know you love it.
Empty Zone is a cyberpunk horror story. If it's easier to think Blade Runner and Hellboy, it's everything I want to draw that just gives me a kick. Like everything, I think this story kind of establishes itself as a good cyberpunk dark kind of story, but it changes pretty quickly to this kind of surreal horror kind of element. And that's really what I love doing. I love doing, dark emotive suspense. And so it is a very much a horror series, but done in the not too distant future. So, everything is fun to draw.
And what are your plans for it? I mean, you got the 5-issue arc you're talking about. I mean, is this ongoing as long as it'll go, or?
Ongoing, yeah. Issue 5 is the final one for the first arc. Then we kind of stick with the saga schedule and take a couple of months, and then jump back on the second arc. And I think I have the first 4 arcs planned out.
Nice. Cool. And everyone seems to be excited. It's at Image, and everyone there is supportive.
Yeah, they've been great. Yeah, this was my first experience with them, so it's been an absolute blast.
So, what brought you out to LA?
I just wanted to be out here.
Yeah.
I knew I always wanted to be out in California, but Kent and I, when we were sharing a studio, we directed a Converse commercial, and then we wrote and directed a short film. And so that was kind of that thing of like, let's go out to LA and do it for real. We came out to LA and just started doing more gallery work, and never did another film project.
Right.
But now I'm thrilled with it because I have so many filmmaker friends that, you know, God bless you if you're here to do film or TV, because if you're a writer director, you know, the amount of people you have to impress and then get things to, you know, you can come up with an idea and hopefully in 10 years you can make that movie. And I did another little horror short while I was here, and as soon as it was done, I was like, yeah, I like comics.
Right. And how have you found the comics scene community out here in Los Angeles?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's even down to, you know, I get together every Sunday with a few other comic book guys at this little bar on Vine, and we have kind of a little private drink and draw and shoot the dish and all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
Like me and Jim Mahfood and Mike Huddleston and those guys.
All right. I bet you that's a fun...
I know.
You should put a zine together of that thing, the sketch. We'd sell it here at Meltdown.
We keep threatening to Periscope it.
Yeah.
But nobody... like, it's a proper drink and draw, so nobody wants to be Periscoped when you're doing this thing.
Yeah. That's awesome. So how'd you meet all those guys? Is that just...
Over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I met Jim first, and then through him I met, you know, Dave Crosland and Mike Huddleston. And, yeah, we're all just, and it's great because we all draw differently, so we're not ever really in competition with each other, and we can just sit back and enjoy and talk about what we're doing and keep everybody motivated.
Yeah.
Is there a particular creator that you haven't worked with that you would, if you had the chance in the future? Over any company or anything?
Yeah, my end all be all would still be to do to work with Alan Moore.
Nice.
I've gotten to work with really good writers. You know, Mike Mignola was so fun when we were doing Abe Sapien, and Brian Vaughn when we did The Escapist together.
Nice.
It was great. But yeah, I think it's just because, yeah, I just love reading the guy. I've never met him. I've never, you know, and I just, in those scripts, and I guess I keep thinking back over and over and over again about Killing Joke, and I'm like, oh, to work with that guy.
That would be insane.
What about a character? And could span any genre or any company.
I don't know why if I can have
Squirrel Girl, I know.
If I can have just like a short ego, I don't know why I've never been asked to draw Ghost Rider.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Come on.
That would be amazing. I think that fit perfectly
I know.
with your art style.
It's driving me crazy. I've asked so many times.
Really?
When I did the Marvel Zombies issue, it was fun. It felt like I kind of got everybody in. This one issue had Wolverine, Spider-Man, all these other guys. I'm like, cool, done. But, and I kept asking, Ghost Rider? He goes, oh yeah, maybe. Oh yeah, let's see. And then nothing.
Do you ever go to any conventions and sell your art at comic conventions? Because, I mean, your comic art, because obviously we know you're in the galleries, but do you ever go to the conventions and sell art there?
I've loved doing San Diego. I've done that almost exclusively for the last 10 years. And now that I'm doing my own book, I'm trying to branch out for promotion. So this is the first year I've done, in decades, I've done Heroes, and I'm going to do New York for the first time this year. And next year, I think there's a list of conventions that I'm supposed to be at. So
nice.
Cool.
You could do an original Ghost Rider piece.
That's true. I need to actually just do a print and say, here.
Yeah, I'm Stallion, man. I mean, come on. This is what people want.
I'll do that as my banner that sticks up behind me.
Yeah. Then they will have to have you. They'll be like, oh, man, you see that guy in the aisle? He goes by 3 names.
The better to sue you with.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if they spell one of them wrong, they can't collect the judgment.
Done.
There you go.
You know they're going to spell it scene. So that's
good. Nice.
Do you have any future comic book plans, or are you just focusing on Empty Zone?
Right now, it's just Empty Zone. I think if something amazing always came around, then, you know, I would love to consider it. But yeah, so far it's just been you know, of course, I would still have to redo another Two-Face, but still.
Another print.
If you're invited to come back to Batman, we would love to have you.
Oh man, that's just what an amazing superhero world to have created. You know, just everything dark and it's just nightmares. The whole world is nightmares. A Nick Scarecrow that runs around spraying you with fear. Like, are you kidding? It's and at least when I did get to draw Two-Face for that one story, I did get a few panels where it felt like I got to kind of like live up to it it was very much like I wanted half of his face to look like a Francis Bacon painting. You know, I was like, of course, everybody draws scars and realistic stuff, and I get that, and that's my go-to, but how about if we just completely blur and make that other side of his face just look furious each time? And so I did get to play with it, but I think that's what's more frustrating is that I only got to play with it.
Right,
and then it
you
was
didn't
just,
have to go, you couldn't go full on. Yeah.
Deadlines, man. You got to be a professional.
So what about Batman stories? You got a favorite Batman story besides Killing Joke? Or is that just dominance?
I mean, it might be Arkham.
Okay.
Because that was such a beautifully realized Batman world. My favorite Batman stuff, though, beyond the graphic novels, are the black and whites.
Oh yeah.
Yes, those are beautiful.
And again, you know, I just want to knock on Chiarello's door. I'm like, seriously? I just
a black and white story for me would be so sick.
That's one you just gotta do.
Yeah.
Just do
Just do it.
Force them.
And make it Two-Face.
And make it I love that.
All right.
I'm down. I'll just do one on spec and just turn it in. I'm like, here's your story.
You come here, we're gonna promote it every time. History of the Batman.
Have a signing here, Meltdown.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
he's had signing here at Meltdown already. So we'll have another
Come
one
back.
for your all your private stuff.
I like that. Is there a Batman story you would want me to do?
I'm trying to think. I really like the Two-Face idea because I think just by itself, Two-Face just showing all that emotion, and Scarecrow's always fun. And yeah, I think Joker, if you could redo Joker and do more than you wanted to outside of Arkham City, like redo it, and I would like to see that. I think that would be really good.
Do you like Robin? I have to ask because you're such the Batman.
I do. My favorite Robin is Dick Grayson, but I like Dick Grayson as a whole. I like Nightwing, all that. Nice. And so
Sounds like a guy who doesn't like Robin asking that question.
I don't know I know next to nothing really in depth about Batman, and so I just see Robin, you know, and always in a different form, and the Dark Knight Returns and everything else. So
right, yeah. Robin's history by itself is fun, but I always liked the first one. Dick Grayson's my favorite. Yeah.
Basically, Londyn loves pretty much everything Batman, and she can find the good in everything Batman. So
you sound like somebody that doesn't like Robin.
Here's the thing. When I first we had a Robin episode where we talked about the history of Robin, and I always thought this is kind of corny. And then with the issues surrounding him, whether he was, the pedophilia and this stuff, but I started to understand what was the good thing about it is here's a kid who's lost everything, and Batman takes him in, and he's a ward. He's not anything other than someone that Batman is protecting just on a more intimate level, in that he's providing him with shelter and, training and everything else, how to help him survive. And so when I see that, and then he grows into his own man to become Nightwing and whatnot, and then, I actually am a little bit more interested in Robin, because
Nice.
I always...
I'm interested in Robin.
Yeah, it was a character that I kind of was a little off-put by, and then I started to realize, you know what, it's not as bad. Now, I did say that Batman should maybe be put in jail for putting him in danger, so much. I mean, not the homosexual pedophilia thing. It's the child endangerment thing that he's doing. But so I actually can respect Robin now. And so what I have really learned is that there is pretty much good in most of the Batman characters. Nice. I'm still interested in Killer Croc. I can't figure out whether I like that character or not. So we might have to do a character spotlight on that. But I actually like Mr. Freeze after our last episode because I thought has to be the corniest guy ever.
That would be a character I'd like to see.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Freeze?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You'd put a cool spin on that.
Because I think a lot of people don't take him seriously at times, but I think you would sway people and you would get them to
he needs a bit of a redesign.
Yeah,
and the thing with Mr. Freeze, which I learned from one of our episodes, is that DC doesn't always push him out there. They sometimes try to restrict the use of him because certain editors find him to be a corny character.
Right.
And it's just when someone does him right, then they let him go. And so it seems like there's a push and pull with his character, whereas like someone like Joker was great from the minute he was introduced and is great to now.
Yeah. Mr. Freeze is that beautifully tragic character too, like his history, right? Like with his wife, or was that not?
No, you're right. Yeah. She's terminally ill and he's trying to find a cure. Yes.
So,
that has a lot more potential than what they've done with him.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So maybe that is your calling, Mr. Freeze.
I'm going to do a Mr. Freeze and Croc. Put those together.
There you go.
Just for you on that one.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Anything else we got, Londyn? I think we're about towards the end.
I think so, but I just wanted to say that I really like your art style because you bring the emotions that I think all of superhero characters, comic book characters, everyone has something behind just what they are on the outside, and I think you really bring that forth in your comic book art and your fine art. So I thank you for being a great artist.
Thank you. Now you made me really want to do Mr. Freeze.
There you go. So listen, Jason, where can people check you out? How's the best way to get in contact with you or search for you, whatever? And it's a SHAWN. But you can give your
the website, which is just my name, jasonshawnalexander.com.
Okay. Do you tweet? Do you Facebook? Any of that stuff?
There's links to all of that stuff in there. But if you don't want to go to websites and you just want to jump on Instagram and Twitter, it's Jason Shawn Alex.
Okay.
I had to find some way to shorten it.
I know, right? They do limit you on that. All right. Well, listen, man, thank you so much for being a guest on the History of the Batman.
Thank you.
It's a real pleasure to have you. Wish you all the success that you deserve. We will continue to follow your work and bring you back on the show, hopefully.
With a Two-Face or Mr. Freeze.
Oh, yeah.
I like it.
All right. So thank you once again, and we'd like to just tell the audience about Kamikaze, which is a convention coming up in L.A. that, Jason, you need to go to, and we're going to work on trying to get you there. But it's down at the convention center, Stanley's Kamikaze.
I know I was invited. I'm going to be in Boston.
So there you go. All right. Well, next year, 2016, man.
Done.
All right. So see us there at Kamikaze. It's at the convention center. It's October 30th to November 1st. And if you actually go on the website and use the promo code MELT, M-E-L-T, you will get a discount. Thanks for tuning in to the History of the Batman with Londyn. This is Adam signing off. And Londyn, anything to say?
Just peace, love, and Batman.
All right. See you next week.